I think we should move on to our next presentation by Olga Špak. As you're getting ready, Olga, she's going to speak to us today about the Охотское as a model for studying the climate influence on polar marine mammal species.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to have a talk during the session, and I would like to tell you about the Охотское as a model for studying the influence of climate change on the polar marine mammal species. Охотское homes 4 species: bowhead whale, beluga, ring seal, and beaded seal. Also, 2 ice-associated residents: larga, spotted seal, and ribbon seal. All these species are mentioned in CAF Arctic Council report as focal components of Arctic ecosystems, or the species those study is beneficial to understand the changes in the Arctic ecosystem. Sea of Охотsk is not a CAF area apart from the very tiny bit of this Sea of Охотsk. Охотsk Sea is drawing lots of attention, but it is not really well known beyond Russia and Japan. But in 2019, there was an article in Washington Post focused on the fact that Japanese fishermen fishing salmon, but there is a significant drop of salmon resources, and there were threatening statements that it is moving to the Sea of Охотsk, and it was said that this is one of the fastest warming areas in the world, Sea of Охотsk. At the same time, Охотское was called the heart of the Northern Pacific, of the entire Pacific, since oxygen that is generated in the northern part of Охотское comes to the northern part of the Arctic Ocean. Pisces in 2010 also pointed out to the dramatic processes happening in Охотское, which is rising average winter temperatures, and there was a warning issued by them that a combination of global warming and decrease of the dissolved ocean might result in the changes of the material cycle and the entire biological productivity. And this is one of the rapidly warming areas in the northern part of Pacific Ocean. Very alarming figures: decrease of the sea ice is happening at 12% per 10 years, and this is happening within 30 years already, and the production of sea ice got decreased by 11% over the course of recent 30 years because of the warming around Yakutia in the fall in the mainland areas of Yakutia. As far as fish resources are concerned, and Japanese fishermen, they were the ones who got alarmed first in the southern areas, Russian waters of Охотское. The situation is also alarming, and near Amur River there were several cases of mass death, cases of salmonids we related to the warming, and also the catch it was going down. At the same time, the northern part of Охотское Sea, the western Kamchatka, they have record levels of catch in salmonids. The north is rather well supplied with fish. The southern areas are not so well supplied with fish. The situation is really alarming and concerning us. The northern part of Охотское Sea, I will not talk a lot about this part, but it's not less important. The status of ice cover in Охотское Sea is impacted by the warm stream, Alaska stream coming from Kuriles Strait, and the same warm water flow comes to the north and by the western Kamchatka stream and prevents from freezing. And so increase in Alaska stream increases the surface temperatures and will result in further decrease of the ice cover area. Going back to marine mammals, during summertime, all 4 marine mammal species are concentrated in the western Охотское Sea areas where ice stays longer. And at summertime, the warm wind from south is bringing warm air. This is the Moscow latitude, and average daily temperatures are hovering around 16 degrees Celsius. Lots of fresh water, which is well heated, is also coming to the bay and impacts salinity. And all the Arctic species of marine mammals spend most of their time in the shallow waters and stay in the ice-free environment for 4 months, roughly. And they have to live in the moderate climate conditions for 2 or 3 months annually. These bays, they impose the following risks. These risks so far are not very obvious for marine mammals in high latitude Arctic, and killer whale, orca predation, coastal human activities, fisheries, tourism, and also terrestrial predators and parasites and infectious diseases. And the orca's predation is increasing, and sighted more often near the seashore, and they are hunting in the areas where they were not seen before. They can hunt all 4 species of marine mammals more often. The beaded seal, ringed seal, and bowhead whale become victims, become their prey. And you can see the video orcas hunting and bowhead whale. Anthropogenic activities, fishery and tourism, and there is a press tension from the salmonid fishery. And Greenland bowhead, they arrive to the gill nets regularly, and these are certain traps for the whales. And there are conflicts between marine mammals and fishermen who just shoot belugas and seals that come to the nets. Tourists are coming increasingly to these areas over the course of 5 to 6 years. There's an exponential growth in the tourism. But in Russia, we don't have any regulatory acts that controls, and no whale watching regulatory tools. And global warming reduces the food resources and the competition against boreal species. Our colleagues provided us with information that currently during winter time, fin whales come to Охотское Sea, and North Pacific right whales, sperm whales, killer whales, and albatross. The terrestrial predators and diseases and parasites. During ice-free time, the seals spend a considerable time on land, and the brown bears hunting on them, and even dogs can hunt the seals and kill them. They've learned, and in the settlements, apart from livestock waste, household waste, the marine mammals, they contact with dogs and they got infected. And also the seabirds that feed themselves and they join the seagulls, for example, they eat remains of marine mammals. So infection is spreading across all the species. Typical bowhead whale, they suffer from whale lice because of the change in water temperature. Perhaps Охотское, this is the most southern environment for Arctic marine mammals. These populations are just trying to get adjusted. They are learning how to live in a temperate climate. And so we need to watch, and I propose to consider Охотское as a life model of what is currently happening with the Arctic marine mammal species under the changing climate conditions. To conclude with, I wanted to say a couple of words on marine protected areas. Marine areas in Охотское, mostly coastal areas. And they're so small, so negligent in size. And these kind of green areas, these are the federal and regional, not transparent ones. These are the licensed oil and gas exploration sites. And red circles, ellipses, the areas of significant importance for conservation of biological diversity based on the highest predators in a trophic chain. And the takeaway message, Охотское is a very unusual sea with subarctic mood with the enormously rich biological diversity. It's important for the entire Pacific. It needs attention of scientists and it needs protection. And while we plan marine protected areas in polar regions, we need to anticipate the changes in different components of the ecosystems and plan ahead to better predict the change in high latitude ecosystems. We also need to consider other basins, oceanographical and climate processes, and consider all the climate change consequences in Arctic while planning our activities. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Olga. That was terrific. I think we've got about 1 minute left for questions. I see there's Dima Glasov had a question. It's in Russian though. I don't know. Is that a question or an announcement, Dima?
This is a question from Alexander Volkov. Olga, you said that Охотское water impacts content of oxygen in the Northern Pacific. In what way? The water in the Охотское impacts the Northern Pacific. And I have sources, Chernauk sources, but polynyars, the open waters that are formed in the northern and the western part of Охотское during active warm winds from Yakutia. So from there, the mixing is happening. Mixing of water is happening, and this water goes further to the northern Pacific. This is how I perceived the impact of Охотское on the content of oxygen.
Okay, thanks for that.